Hello, class, and welcome to the first part of a brand new semester. I'm very excited to have you in the course. Um, I'm hoping that you will get a lot out of this course. It's an exciting course, and it's all about educational psychology, which is, as it sounds, really like two different words, education, but the psychology of our students, and a little bit about psychology of teachers. I find it all intensely interesting. This is the second of two videos that you were to watch in the first week. The first being my introductory video of who I am, where I live, and etc. This pattern will probably continue through the weeks. I like to just do a very brief video showing me so you can connect with me as a person. But a second video where I don't show me, but I focus more on the content. And that's what this is. So you should either have printed out the syllabus at this point or have it open so that you can see it in front of you. You can feel free to minimize the window and switch back and forth. So I'm just going to take you through the syllabus because your syllabus is really the contract that you have with the instructor and about the course. And so if you look at the syllabus, you'll see that's my contact information on the top. I don't have scheduled office hours, but I'm more than happy to meet with you or chat about things by phone. And all you have to do is email me at that nheilbrenner@mercy.edu and say, I'd like to set up an appointment to speak with you. I'd be happy to do that. Course description is located below my contact information. This is a completely online class, and I know that we have varying levels of experience with online classes. So what I want to tell you is that two pieces of advice, especially for those of you who are new to online learning. Don't put things off until the very last minute. Let's say an assignment is due at midnight and you are rushing against the clock and it's 11:55 and you're ready to submit, and all of a sudden you hit the submit button and Blackboard crashes. Well, you don't have a lot of recovery time, so try to build some recovery time into your online learning experience. The second thing is, if you do encounter difficulties, the appropriate thing to do is, if you need support with Blackboard, email mercyonline@mercy.edu, or if you're having login or browser-related trouble, so something about your computer's not quite lighting up with the course, you can call that number there, 674-7526, or email the help desk, and there's a whole page link here for you to find out more about that. It's not something that I can particularly help you with, but this is the way that Mercy has set up to deal with technical issues. Let's get a little bit into the policies for the course. The first thing you might notice is that there's a makeup policy for assignments and quizzes. And basically what that is that you should try to take things on time and get them in on time. However, in recognition of the fact that things occur, right, I will accept any of the major assignments except for the final exam and the extra credit vocabulary project up to 1 week late. So if you miss the deadline, don't panic. You can still submit up to 1 week late, but that does incur a 10% point penalty. So what does that mean? Let's say an assignment is worth 15% of your grade, or 15 out of 100 course points. And let's say you submit it late, excuse me, and you get a 13 on it. Well, I would be forced to take 1.3 points away from the 13th, so your final grade would be 11.7 points. So it's a good idea to get your assignments in on time, but if you can't, for most of the major assignments, you have up to a week. However, there is, besides the final exam and the extra credit vocabulary project, there is one other exception. No discussion postings will be counted if submitted late. And the reason for this is that as a discussion take the place of our in-person classroom discussion. So if you're posting late on those, it's like the class has already left the room and you're trying to post. So you don't have an audience. So it's important to post in the discussion boards on time with the rest of the class. The reason I don't accept late final exams and extra credit vocabulary projects is if you look to see when those are due, they're very, very late in the course. And so it doesn't give me enough time to grade those assignments and get them in on time. Let's talk for a moment about submission of papers. All papers must be submitted, and typed and entered and uploaded in Microsoft Word format. PDF, Adobe papers are not acceptable, nor are papers outside of any other format other than Word. You've got to upload them to Blackboard, not email them to the professor, not to me, or not hand them to me. Contact the help desk if you're having trouble uploading, and give yourself a little extra time to upload. All assignments must follow the American Psychological Association format, APA. You can purchase the manual used fairly inexpensively that I've listed in the syllabus, and that'll help you write your papers. I've also provided a link on the course site. Revisions of assignments, I believe in second chances, so any assignments except for the final exam and the discussion post may be revised and resubmitted up to 1 week after they are graded. In any case, no assignments may be submitted after May 12th. You can see the student learning outcomes here, and these aren't all of them, but I'll let you on your own read through. These are things you should be able to do by the end of the course. The required textbook is Educational Psychology, Theory and Practice, and it's very important that you get the 12th edition because I will be referencing case studies and other things, question sets in the book. So next week, I'm going to ask that you email a photo of you and your textbook so that I can see that you purchased the correct copy. Don't get the previous versions, please. Here you can see how assignments are broken out. Everything in the course adds up to 100 points to make things easy. So your learning modules are usually 2 points each and 15 of them, so that comes to 30. Your interview with a psychologist is worth 15 points. Your Edtpa lesson plan and commentary worth 15 points. This is your field work. The theory to practice observation is worth 20, and there will be a final exam with a case study worth 20. That adds to 100 course points. You can see the grading scale below. So let's say you got a 95, that would be an A. If you got an 81, that would be a B minus. And I do round up or down based on 1 decimal point. Let's take a little closer look at some of the assignments. Each week on Sunday, you will have a learning module due, and as I said, there are 15 of them, and they usually count for 2 points, and that comes up to 30 points. Each module will have a variety of activities. You might be asked to watch a video or an audio lecture, respond to questions or discussion topic, and usually there's a weekly assignment. It might take the form of a quiz like it is this week, a short paper, a short project, or more. Now, the important thing to do is when you go into the week's folder, look for a file called README. And that file contains all the activities and steps that you need to complete the week's work. Very simply, work through the steps and you should be fine. All learning modules will be posted no later than Monday, and they're due by the following Sunday. Usually I try to get out ahead after the first of the course and post a couple of modules ahead, but I don't like to post the discussion boards ahead of time. And the reason is, again, those discussion boards we should all be hitting at the same time. It's like if I let you do it early, it's like you come and you present to a class that's not there. If you do want to get ahead, you can look at the course timetable and simply read your textbook, and that'll keep you busy until the modules are up and posted. If you are working in advance, please check back to post on the discussion board. Speaking of the discussion board, every time that you post, you'll be graded with a rubric. You have to post what I call a response post, and that's your response to my questions. And you have to post a reaction post to another colleague. You'll either get 0, 0.25, or half a point for each of those. So a full discussion posting well done is usually worth 1 point or 1 course point or 1% of your grade. You can see here that if either of those is missing, you're assigned 0 points. If it's somewhat responsive, but maybe a little superficial, or maybe your reaction post just says good job and doesn't really extend the conversation in any way, you'll be given 1/4 of a point. If you post thoughtfully and meaningfully respond to the question using textbook information or personal experiences to support your ideas, you'll be awarded a half point for your response posting. If you post thoughtfully and meaningfully respond to a colleague's post and advance the argument or pose a meaningful question. So what do I mean by that? Let's say your colleague has posted something really thoughtful and you come back with good job, I like what you did here. That's going to be awarded a 0.25 because it doesn't really advance the conversation. But if you say, good job, I like what you did here, but have you considered this? That would be a half point. The second assignment is the interview with a psychologist. This is due March 24th and it's worth 15 points. Here, you're going to go and arrange a 30-minute interview with a school psychologist, counselor, or social worker. The purpose of the interview is to explore how this professional collaborates with teachers, parents, and administrators and supports students. You're going to write a well-written paper, double space, and I do grade heavily on writing for this one. You're going to describe the context of the interview, date and time, school and grade levels, name and title of who you interviewed, the interviewee, describe the setting of the interview. For example, were you in an office? Were you in a classroom? And then you're going to ask them questions. So, for example, tell me about yourself. What's your job description? What previous experiences have you had? What are your credentials for this job? What contact do you have with families? Are there specific students that you have to do things with, and what kinds of activities do you do? How do you work with teachers? How do you collaborate with other professionals in the school? What are your views on medication? What are your perspectives on inclusion? What are your views on changes in school-based or recent legislation and technology advances? How has this impacted your job? You're going to take notes and you're going to write it up as a narrative. In other words, you're not going to type the question and then the answer. You're going to make it seem like a narrative. I interviewed so-and-so on this date. So-and-so described her credentials to me as being, so almost like a story that you're telling, not a Q&A. You can look in the syllabus and see the rubrics for each assignment. Here's the rubric for an interview with a school psychologist. And I always tell students to grade with the rubric in front of them. To write with the rubric in front of them. So when you're doing your assignment, say, am I describing the context of the interview? Could I get an excellent on this? Could I get an excellent on the content coverage? Did I cover all the topics? Students who use the rubrics as a guide to writing generally score better than students who don't look at the rubric. The third assignment is the theory to practice observation. This is your field work and it's due April 28th. The purpose of this is to relate learning theories to practice. And so you'll observe a classroom for a total of 6 hours. You're going to observe the children in the classrooms but not interact with them. You're going to take lots and lots of field notes and then relate your observations about instruction to at least one of the following three, to at least three of the following learning or motivational theories. Now, these theories don't mean anything to you right now. This is why this assignment comes towards the end of the semester. Later, these theories will mean something to you, and so these are the ones you must relate to your observation, not anything else. Some things are not theories, and so constructivism is not a theory, so you can't use that. You have to choose from the bulleted list. Specific components of the submission should include, again, the context of the observation, activities that you observed, a discussion of how these activities relate to three specific learning theories, and a description of what you learned in this assignment, which should be more of a reflection than a conclusion. We'll be going over each one of these assignments in a little more depth, but this is just an introduction. Here's the grading rubric. So context, classroom activities, theories, activities. Again, we'll go over this in a little more depth later. The next assignment is the Edtpa lesson plan with commentary. It's 15 points and it'll be due in 4 parts, which are marked in the timetable. The final is due May 5th. And what this consists of is you're going to write a lesson plan and write a 2 to 4 page commentary on how the lesson is supported by theory and research. This is something you're going to actually have to do in the Edtpa, so this is a good practice or tryout. It's a difficult assignment, so I'm not going to be giving it to you and just saying it's due at the end, but you'll have to be turning in specific parts of your draft as we go along. And finally, there is a final exam due May 12th. It's going to be online and a study guide will be posted. Remember, the exam may not be turned in late. If you have a documented accommodation, please email me with the documented accommodation from the Office of Accessibility. Vocabulary project is an optional project that's up to 5 extra credit points. Those are course points. So that could really bump your grade up. Let's say you have a final 88 grade. That's a B+, but that would bump you up into 93, which is an A-. And basically what you're expected to do is look at the look at the course syllabus. The timetable lists all the vocabulary, and there's a template on the course site that asks for you to put the word in the table and define the word and use it in a sentence. And if you did that every week, it would add up over time, and you could submit it at the end. It needs to be submitted by May 12th, and you will be awarded, depending on how comprehensive you were, up to 5 points extra credit. Again, this assignment is optional. The next thing you might review in the course syllabus is the course timetable. This is really your guide for what's due. And so you can see we're in week 1, and that's due Sunday, January 27th. And the topics we're covering are getting to know you in the course, introductions and overview. There's no vocabulary this week, but you can see next week we start with the vocabulary. This week a weekly module is due, and there's a case study that's on the course site in the module folder called The Chances of Getting Out. I think you'll find this is a really interesting case study about a young rural woman who's trying to establish her own identity. Next week, week 2, will be due on Sunday, February 3rd. And that's when we really start with the content. The topic is Educational Psychology, a Foundation for Teaching. We'll be talking a little bit about research methods, educational research, uses for educational research, what makes a good teacher, can good teaching be taught, and intentional teaching. Our vocabulary is listed here along with the page number to find it. And there's also a glossary at the back of the book. If you would like to get started on your vocabulary template, these are the words you would do for the second week. And I believe on the vocabulary template, this week is actually filled in for you in terms of the words. Read Slavin, Chapter 1, that's our textbook. And as I said, next week I will be asking you as part of that module, weekly module 2, to email me a picture with the textbook, and we'll have another case study. So you can look through it. If you want to work ahead, you could work on the vocabulary template. You could work on reading the text as far as you want. There's a bibliography section that contains some interesting additional readings if you want. And finally, our Interstate New Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, we call them Intasc Standards. Just like teachers of K to 12 have standards that we have to teach to children, universities and colleges have professional development standards that we have to use to prepare educators, future educators. And those are the Intasc standards. And you can look and see that the course outcomes are tied into them. So for this week, make sure you have completed all the activities in the README file from week 1. There is a checklist at the end of that file. And so you should simply look over that checklist and say, yes, I did this, I did this, I did this. And that is due Sunday, January 27th. Again, if you slip up and you don't get started in time or something happens, you can submit the quiz in that, but not the discussion post a little late. Here's the checklist for this week. And so you can see the double check checklist that you should have clicked on the welcome start here, watched my short introductory video, posted an introductory message and attached a photo or video of yourself, looked at the README file. You're now viewing the About Course lecture, and you're going to take the About Course quiz after that, read the case study, The Chances of Getting Out, and posted your responses and replies to your colleagues on discussion post 1. And so this may seem like a lot, but the reality is the state asks us for online courses to replace the hours that you're meeting in class. So if normally we would be meeting 2.5 hours, and then in a face-to-face class, and then you would be doing additional work. Let's say you do 2.5 hours of reading and homework, it would be 5 hours. And so this has to be substantial to replace at least most of those hours. So my advice is get started early. Don't try to put it all off until the very end, until 10 o'clock on Sunday night, because you won't get it done. Next week, when we start talking about educational psychology, you're going to read, you'll have your textbook, you're going to read Slavin, Chapter 1. There's that activity about emailing me a picture, and you're going to complete the learning module for week 2. You'll look at the README file in week 2's folder when it is posted, and that's due February 3rd. If you have any questions at all, I'm more than happy to answer them. You can email me through nheilbrunner@mercy.edu or simply through the course message system. So everybody have a great week. I hope you're off to a good start, and I'll talk to you some more in week 2.